What is up, everybody? Bootman here, and we're back with another Marvel Snap video. So, I've made a couple videos about my Magantris deck, which has gotten me to infinite rank, not one, but 2 seasons in a row, and it does it pretty quickly. Both times that I started using this deck in this season took me within a week to hit rank infinite. But I keep getting questions from all of you beautiful people like, hey, I don't have this card, what's a good replacement? And whenever I get a lot of the same question, I'm like, you know what, screw it, we're just gonna make an entire dedicated video. So if you're interested in this deck and getting to infinite, this video is for you, all right? But before we get started, if you're new here, hi, I'm Chris, AKA Bootman. And if you love Marvel Snap as much as I do, make sure you subscribe and ring that notification bell, especially because we're trying to grow this beautiful community. And as my Christmas present, all right, you guys already reached the first tier of my Christmas present, but we're trying to hit 2,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Right now, we're at about 1,300, which is mind-blowing, but you, brand new viewer, hit that subscribe button. Let's get to 2,000, all right? Especially because I do videos like this, all right? I listen to all of you, and I try to make videos that all of you want. Because I am personally, as somebody who watches a lot of videos on Marvel Snap, I'm kind of tired of all the videos like talking about the exact same decks, the exact same things. So I'm trying to do something different, and you don't want to miss it. So subscribe, ring that notification bell. All right, but let's dive into this. So this is my Magantris deck. And I think the first thing I want to mention when starting this video out is whenever you're getting like deck recommendations, deck ideas, and things like that, and you don't have specific cards, the number one question that I ask myself, which might help you as well, is what is this card's purpose and what could replace it, right? So when you look at what the card's purpose is, then it's easier to find replacements. So the best example I can give you is when I got the inspiration for this deck from another creator, he had Rescue for this slot where I have Crossbones, all right? He had Rescue. Rescue is a 4/4 card. When you, it's like a beefed out Hawkeye, right? When you drop another card at location on the next turn, Rescue gets +5 power, turns into a 4/9, all right? So I'm like, okay, so this is a 4-cost card that beefs up to get a lot of power, right? So what can I replace it with? I was just going through my deck list. Crossbones is a card I had never used before, but I had him and I used it, all right? So I've been able to reach infinite by making that little swap, all because I was like, what is this card's purpose, all right? So that's like kind of the rule I use, because maybe I won't even suggest a good alternative for you, but if you keep that in mind, it's gonna help you just for the duration of your Marvel Snap career, finding replacement cards. All right, so let's go through this. I'm just gonna, just kind of like walk through what I think the purpose of each card is, give you some recommendations just based on what I think, and you can kind of go from there, all right? But also leave a comment down below. I've been considering doing a live stream maybe this weekend and like testing out some of these alternative cards, because I'm just like kind of guessing on these. Like I have the deck, I haven't tested alternatives. So if you're interested in a live stream of me like testing out alternatives, just leave a comment down below, all right? So first up, we got Hood. Hood, 1-cost card, -2 power, and he puts a 1/6 demon in your hand, all right? Hood is a great card for 2 reasons in this deck. So we also have Killmonger and we also have Carnage, because we don't really want a -2 power card sitting on our board, all right? So Carnage and Killmonger get rid of it. But as far as replacement, one of the best things about this deck, which helps me out, is the Demon, obviously. So it's a 1/6 card, and I can keep this bad boy in my hand until the end of the game, all right? Because usually turn 6, turn 7, because we have magic in this deck, that's when I'm like pushing out some power. That's when I really come into my strategy of whatever's gonna win that game, all right? So the best replacement I can think of for Hood is probably Ebony Maw, okay? So Ebony Maw, my boy right here, he's a 1/7, but the bad thing about Ebony Maw is that you can only play him up to turn 3. But if you watch my video on leech counters, if Ebony Maw gets leeched, then you don't gotta worry about that. But I think of Ebony Maw, another replacement might be Sunspot, since Sunspot gains power when with unused energy. So that's another possibility as well. But the thing that you gotta keep in mind too is that with Hood and Nova, these are cards that I'm trying to get rid of, and they turn into Carnage Food or just I Killmonger them out of there. You know what I mean? So keep that in mind as well. That's why I usually hold on to my Demon until later in the game. All right, Nova, you could do whatever, all right? But I think most of you watching this have Nova, because Nova's what, pull 1 or pull 2? So you should have Nova. Nova is really good, especially with Killmonger sitting in your hand, because there's a lot of games where I drop Nova turn 6 or turn 7, or I destroy Nova turn 6 or turn 7. But if I'm being honest too, sometimes you really gotta read your opponent and see what kind of deck they're playing. Like, I'll usually try to drop Hood like on a unrevealed location, right? Like location 2 or location 3, just to see what kind of deck they're running. Because I would rather have my Hood sitting on the board if they're gonna armor it, or if they're gonna Killmonger it. I'd rather have my Hood out there and not really worry about it than my Nova. Because Nova, a late game Nova explosion, you're buffing up a bunch of cards, you know what I mean? And especially if you have like Mysterio out there, his illusions are gonna get +1 power as well, all right? Next card, Black Widow. Black Widow, do whatever you want with, because Black Widow is actually a new card that I put in this deck. So any of you who watched, you know, my previous Infinite video about this deck, I was originally using Angela. Angela's a great card. If you don't have Black Widow, use Angela. I just recently got Black Widow, and I'm like, let's see what happens. And I love it. I love it a lot. It's a 2-cost card. It disrupts them for 1 turn, you know, by putting a Widow's Bite that can't draw a card. And then if you get things like Cloning Vats or Luke's Bar as a location, like you could just keep doing it, or like, yeah, those 2 locations mainly. I was gonna say, what is it, Bar Sinister or Sinister London that duplicates the card. That doesn't really matter because you just put 2 in their hand. But anyways, I guess that's kind of good too, because then they have to put Widow's Bites out there, which takes up like a board space, you know what I mean? But yeah, so the purpose of Black Widow is kind of disruption, but I've used Angela. Angela has helped me get to Infinite last season. I was using Black Widow this season. So I know you got Angela, so just use Angela if you need to. All right, Carnage. Carnage is another card you should have. If not, let me know down in the comments. I don't know if this was just specific to last season, but I think most people have Carnage. And again, Carnage's purpose is to get rid of Hood or Nova, all right, to clear your board. But I will tell you this, if any of you have been watching my YouTube shorts or a video, I can't remember which video it was from, but with Leader being part of the new meta, I've dropped Carnage on the last turn of the game a few times, and it's absolutely just screwed over Leader because it makes them eat their cards that they weren't expecting, and that's very, very funny. But I guess you could, like, if you wanted to, you could use a Venom or another card that destroys something, all right? Mysterio. This is another card that I get a lot of questions about. A lot of people don't have Mysterio. So what is Mysterio's purpose? Mysterio recently got nerfed, was a 2/5. Mysterio's main purpose for me is to beef up Bishop, all right? If you've seen any of my gameplay with this, a lot of times, if I have Mysterio in my hand and I have Bishop in my hand, I will skip turn 2, or I won't drop Mysterio on turn 2 just for Bishop. Because Bishop, you get +1 power whenever you play a card. With the way that Mysterio functions, Bishop reads that as 3 cards, okay? So when you drop Mysterio, Bishop's getting +3 power. So if you drop Mysterio on turn 4 after Bishop on turn 3, on 1 location, you're getting +8 power, all right? Because Bishop's getting 3 from Mysterio, and then Mysterio is a +4. But if I already have some power on that location, I'll move it around. So what's a good replacement card for Mysterio? I'd say any 2-cost card, like if you keep in mind that I am primarily using him to buff up Bishop, and his secondary function is an illusion being Carnage Food, okay? So when you think about it like that, like it's like, okay, I'm not gonna be able to buff up Bishop, and if I was being honest, and like, let me know if you experiment, like maybe you wanna swap out Bishop if you don't have Mysterio, because that's like the primary purpose. Like if I have a Bishop without a Mysterio, like I'm always debating on whether or not I should play Bishop. But I would think like, you know, maybe like a Colossus is a good card just because it can't be moved or destroyed. Viper is another good one. If you don't have Mysterio, but you do have Viper, Viper's great in coordination with Hood, because Viper flips a card over to the other location, so you can put -2 on their side, so as long as they don't have a destroy deck, you're cool. I would think like a Lizard or a Green Goblin might be good as well, just as replacements. I just got Green Goblin too, so I haven't played around with him too much, but I know when people use Green Goblin against me, it is very annoying. But yeah, even a Lizard, you know, or a Morph, something like that, all right? So just something that gives you some utility, some function that helps out with your gameplay, maybe confuses the other opponent. Because when you do drop Mysterio, if I do eat one of his illusions with Carnage, there's still 2 more on the board, as long as there's not like a location that Mysterio can't get into. So yeah, keep that in mind. Killmonger, I wouldn't replace Killmonger. And this is another card that most of you should have, because I think he's pool 2. Yeah, so you should have him. Killmonger, aside from getting rid of Hood and Nova, Killmonger's just like, I don't know. Like I can't think of a deck, like any deck that I have that does not use Killmonger, like I kick myself for it, all right? Because I'll play against a Zoo deck, or I'll play against like a Destroy deck and I wanna mess with them or something like that. Like just have Killmonger in your deck, especially when Clintar was like the location and it turned it into a 1-drop, like really like Killmonger. So Shang-Chi and Enchantress. These are 2 cards that you should have because they're both pool 2, I believe. And these 2 cards, Shang-Chi and Enchantress, I don't think this deck would work nearly as well without them, all right? These 2 cards have won so many games for me. Enchantress, like the whole reason I named this Majantress is because Magic and Enchantress, right? Pretty smart. But Enchantress really helped me because people were running a lot of ongoing decks, a ton of ongoing decks. That has recently died down a bit, but Shang-Chi has been there to back it up. Like when I'm sitting there, like those of you who have been watching my videos, you know how much like I like dislike, but also find hilarious people who snap on turn 1. Like if I'm sitting with Shang-Chi and Enchantress on my first like draw of the game and the other person snaps, I'm for sure staying in this, because these 2 counter like the main archetypes for so many different decks. People are either pushing high power on the board, or they're using a lot of ongoing to spread power and beef up low cost characters. So like, just use these cards. Like if it was up to me, I'd have these 2 cards in like just about every deck. Like now that I'm infinite, I've been playing around with other decks and I don't have like a Shang-Chi or Enchantress. I'm like, oh, this is so annoying. And by the way, real quick side note, like I keep experimenting with other decks now that I'm infinite, and I just keep asking myself, I'm like, why am I not using this deck? Like, I think it's gonna be hard for this deck to become obsolete. It just has so many backups and alternatives, and just like for so many different situations. Like I bet you I can get to infinite next season with this deck. So just keep that in mind. This is a dang good deck, okay? Like, because so many other decks like rely on like one specific thing, you know? So Crossbones, we already kind of discussed. Rescue is a good option because Rescue gets turns into a 4/9. Very good card, like Rescue. I want to start using Rescue some more. Where you at, girl? Okay, there you are. Rescue, like this card, like it's phenomenal. Like it's gonna beef up any location, no matter what you have that you follow up with. It turns into a +9. I think I was watching Cozy Snap, and he was talking about how much he loves Rescue, and he brought up like a good one, like Rescue into like a Professor X. Like that's gonna turn that into a +12 location. Like if you can have Rescue sitting solo, drop Professor X, lock it down, turns it into what is that? A 4/12, but or not 4/12, but just 12 power on the location. But anyway, don't use Professor X in this deck. Don't do that. I was just giving an example. But yeah, so other than Crossbones, I would say Rescue. Heck, I would even use like a Thing or a Rock Slide. Just a 4 power card that drops or 4 cost card that drops some additional power. Somebody in my comments mentioned White Queen. I think that would be a good one too. Not only is she 6 power, but you also get a little peeksy do into what they're running, what they might be doing on the last turn. You know what I mean? Next up is Magic. If I had to say it, like, this is the only card that I'd say that you can't replace. Magic is another one that I wish I could run in more of my decks. It just opens up the game so much more. So much more. Like in my She-Hulk, my double She-Hulk and Infinite deck, that one, like if I have, like that deck can stand like without Magic, but with Magic, there's so much more that you can do. So Magic, please just try to get this card. I do not have a suggestion. I do not have an alternative for Magic. There's nothing else in the game that does what Magic does. It gives you a full extra turn. Like the only issue with Magic is turn 5, you are not really doing anything, right? And I'll tell you some drawbacks of Magic. Iceman, okay? If Iceman hits Magic, you can't do it because Magic can only be played before turn 6. So Iceman hits her, or that location, what is it, Ice Box, where it just picks a random card, that too. So unless you have like a Psylocke or something like that, or one of the things that drops your card, or you get Super Flow that gives you another energy. So yeah, try to use Magic. Then last up, we have Captain Marvel. I get more questions about this card than anything. Also, stay tuned, make sure you're subscribed, because I did mention in a video, and I didn't know how many people wanted me to talk about this, but since I use Captain Marvel so much, there are some bugs, and I put that in air quotes with it, with her. So I'm gonna do a video with some Captain Marvel gameplay to try to show you what makes her not function the way she does. So those of you who don't know, Captain Marvel, at the end of the game, she moves to a location that wins you the game if possible. So when the game is over, she will and fly to a location, all right? So that is an unmatched ability, but the #1 replacement that I always say when people ask me is our buddy right here. Our buddy right here, Vision. Vision, really underrated card because again, what is the function? Like what is the function of Captain Marvel? Captain Marvel, aside from just being automated and going to win you a location, she gets into locations that you can't get into, right? Like a location that's locked down as long as it's not, Professor X. But if somebody storms a location, or it's like a bar, a Luke's bar, or like a Sanctum Sanctorum, whatever, like a location where you cannot play, you get Captain Marvel on the board, she'll go over there. And one of the benefits too is, because I see a lot of people like think they're really slick. They're like, ho, I'm gonna snap this guy because I got a Dr. Doom. Well, Dr. Doom drops 5 power Doom bots, Captain Marvel's 6, okay? So I would say Vision is the alternative. Vision, again, I believe a pool 2 card, and Vision, you can move him wherever you want. So you're gonna have to plan ahead since he doesn't move automatically. So you gotta kind of just like have that in your mind. See, the good thing about Captain Marvel is I can drop her on the last turn of the game and they don't expect it, right? With Vision, you have to have him on the board before you can move him. You see what I mean? But I would say the only alternative that I could think of for Captain Marvel is Vision. So if you have another idea, go for it. But also, to wrap this video up, this deck does not have a single 6-cost card. So I'm sure there are some cards, sitting here that might be good. So if you have any ideas, leave them down in the comments below. Always leave comments and like your suggestions as well. I'm not the end all be all with any of these. I'm just a guy. I love learning from all of you. A lot of you leave great comments, and I want to encourage all of you to leave comments with your suggestions to help everybody else in the community. Like I get my ideas from all of you, other people making videos and stuff. Like I think it was actually someone in the comment section that said Black Widow, and I was like, you know what? I haven't used her yet. Maybe I'll give it a try, and I've loved her. So always leave comments with your suggestions. So if you have any alternatives to what I mentioned, boom, leave them down below. But anyways, again, that's all I got for this video. Stay tuned because I will be making a Captain Marvel bug video. I'll dive into more detail why I call it a quote unquote bug, all right? But if you're new here, make sure you subscribe, ring that notification bell, because again, we're trying to hit 2,000 subscribers by the end of the year. We're getting close. And again, I try to do what other content creators aren't. I wanna make videos that you request, that you want, that are gonna help you, whether it's videos on counters, whether it's videos breaking down different types of decks, testing decks that people say are like the best decks. You know, I like testing that and seeing what can go wrong, what's wrong with them. So make sure you subscribe. I promise you will be satisfied, all right? But yeah, that's all I got for this video. Have an amazing rest of your day. And not see you next time, I'll see you later, because as soon as I hit stop recording, I'm gonna record that Captain Marvel video. All right, I'll see you next time.